Hey everybody, welcome back to the Shovel Knight playthrough. In this
Plague Knight!
Nope. You should always do Mole Knight first, because his weapon is the best one.
The Dust Knuckles.
Yeah, the Mole Knuckles, like, when I first played the game, I did not appreciate how good the Mole Knuckles were, and...
Dude, they're like the biggest speedrunning
yeah.
thing until you get to the Propeller Knight.
Like, it's not even just for speedrunning, though. Like, they make certain enemies a cakewalk, and I didn't appreciate that the first time I played, because I was too busy using all my magic on the frickin' amulet. So.
Well, I think it's because the game teaches you to use them for
blocks.
Yeah.
And not so much with enemies, but once you actually find that yourself via experimentation, then it's like...
So many invincibility frames.
Yeah, they're cheap, too. It's like 2 magic a punch, if I remember correctly. So they're pretty damn good, all things considered. So don't do what I did and play Plague Knight first. The game kind of tricks you to doing Plague Knight first because
it's the furthest to the left.
It's the closest one. Although you can do any of the 3 in first.
Well, that's kind of the point, yeah.
Yeah, but oh god, doing Plague Knights. Honestly, I think Plague Knight should have been a tier 3 stage, but we'll get to that more when we get to Plague Knight herself. Sorry, excuse me. Forgot what mode we were being played in. Also, this always trips me up whenever I play the game. That rightmost lava thing won't ever actually spew lava. So there are some playthroughs where I just stand there waiting for the next lava to go so I can jump after that, and I'm standing there for 20 seconds waiting for a lava drop that will never happen.
Like,
it's gonna do it.
On the subject of the gender swap pronoun, though, you can actually set that to whatever independently of the sprite, right?
Yeah, you can. I just press the opposite button. And it changes all the male pronouns and male designs to female and vice versa. So,
yeah. I just remember hearing, like, when gender swap mode or body swap mode is the official name, when it
yes,
when it debuted, I remember seeing like every article on it mentioned that feature.
Yeah, and I think it's a good feature, honestly.
They talked it up like it was a super revolutionary thing, like. It kind of gave the impression that it was a slow news week, but
I think the only thing that people said that they could improve upon it was adding like a they option for pronouns.
Yeah.
Which I honestly think, like, I know that some people are going to be like, oh no, they isn't a first person shut up. It can be. Just do it. It's
like, according to common idiom right now, it kind of is, and it's sort of a necessary one because on the internet you don't usually know the gender of a person you're talking about, and it saves you the awkwardness of specifying one.
Like, it's just like people who are grammar who are like, oh, you can't use they as a first person pronoun. That's not grammatically correct. It's like, okay, do you want to call them it? Or do you want to call this person with one of those?
I wouldn't even do that. It's like, I just tell them, have you listened to the English language?
People who talk like that really need to actually get up on English language history, because most of the words they use weren't originally used for what they're using it for. You know?
Not shut up. not to mention, most of those fancy hoity-toity English people probably are big fans of Shakespeare, and he made up like most of his words anyway.
Yeah.
It still tickles me that Shakespeare is such a big thing in English class these days, because it was basically your schlocky pop culture at the time.
Yeah, but it's the schlocky pop culture that managed to survive. So yeah, like that's actually seen. Well, that can actually be seen even as early as the 20th century, where, like, Charlie Chaplin is probably one of the most well-known silent movie actors.
And that's only because, like, the majority of films pre-1930 or so are lost.
Yeah. Like, not that he wasn't popular, it's just that he wasn't the only one, you know? There were lots of other really popular silent movie actors who did similar things to Chaplin. So...
Yeah.
Just his movies happen to survive.
Yeah. So it's kind of similar in that way. Again, not that, like, I don't think that our audience has a lot of snooty English major types. So, like, if any of you guys are there, first off, I'm sorry for calling you snooty. Second off, not
there
that...
are much worse things we could be calling you.
No, he's not really. He doesn't mean that.
Yeah, he means every word.
Yeah, but not that Shakespeare's bad. It's just, you know, like, you can't really argue that Shakespeare's bad, but it's just that, you know, Like,
just, people kind of lost sight of what made it good and why it survived in the first place. Like,
I don't think anybody's willing to judge it only because they don't fucking understand what they're reading.
yeah. Yeah, basically. Like, I
will give. Hey, the nicest thing I have to say about Shakespeare is that he's no James Joyce.
oh, yes, he is not James Joyce. That is.
When I was reading Shakespeare in middle school and high school, we always read those versions of the book that had direct English translation on the opposite end of the page.
Which is why I think they do
actually interpret what we're actually reading.
Which is why they don't teach Shakespeare very well in public schools. Actually,
I'm sorry. It just hit me like with the force of a freight train that we're probably the only people on the internet who ever broke off into an English grammar Nazi tangent over the misgendering discussion.
Yeah.
We're getting there, boys.
Yeah. But anyway, the point is they should be used as a singular pronoun because it's 2017, people. Jesus.
Yeah, it's like, the moral of the story is that butt mode is great, Shovel Knight, and you should always have it.
Yeah.
Maybe they should also incorporate an alteration on the body swap mode that actually lets you list all the pronouns in the game as butt. Every single one. That. Unilaterally.
I think that they have, seriously, I think that they have mentioned patching the game and whenever they do another update to change it to add the they option, if I remember correctly.
They probably were, because when they were developing the body swap mode, and I sort of backhandedly criticized the press for making this a big deal, but they were considering that, which is why they added the option to independently change the pronouns.
Yeah, and they've Yacht Club has always been super. They've always listened to fan sort of things, like their Twitter account. They actually do respond to people who comment to them and things like that, and they're just like I was a Kickstarter backer enough to get to join like the discussion, the design groups. Up first.
Wow, Ted.
Yep, I mistimed that.
That wasn't even close.
Nope. But I got sent back to an earlier checkpoint here because I broke one.
You got cocky, kid.
Eventually, I do start cutting these out, but I did feel the need to show that yes, if you do die, you are sent back to the last checkpoint you left unbroken. Thankfully, though, once you have already gotten all the stuff in an area, Shovel Knight plays a lot faster. Like, I play this game pretty methodically because I'm going for all the different stuff. Like, I'm trying to break every chest, kill most of the enemies, get as much gold as possible. But if you're ignoring all of that stuff, these levels are actually much, much faster. You can get through pretty quickly. Like here, we're like 3 screens later, and we're back at the checkpoint that I had just broken. Now, one criticism I do have about Shovel Knight is that there are some checkpoint droughts in some later stages. Mole Knight's not that bad, but in some later stages, like, you'll go forever without a checkpoint, and then there'll be 2 checkpoints literally right next to each other. It's a little weird, but again, that's pretty much nitpicking.
Treasure Knight, I think, was
Treasure Knight, Polar Knight
and
too.
Propeller Knight. I don't remember. No, yeah, Polar Knight, yeah, you're right. Especially with the damn rainbow vomit sequences.
Yeah, like
which you can skip if you're good enough.
Oh, you can use the fishing rod to.
Yeah, I am so happy. I'm so happy I found that out because, again, like you got a bag there. It's just like, okay, that's kind of an awkward place to get it. Like whenever it's right over the pit. So they did give you a way to get some of it, but there are some instances where it's like underneath another platform, and the only way you're getting those is if you happen to have a gold attraction chalice on you at that point.
Yeah.
So that's why I always keep them around, especially during the mid-game, because this is when your money kind of matters the most. You can max out pretty much everything related to money before you even beat all the knights, but at this point in the game, this is when money is most important. From what I've discovered, anyway.
Yeah.
Depends on what you want to do with the armor.
Yeah, I always buy all the armor because there's nothing else for me to spend all my money on by that point, you know?
Finish the game in the gold armor.
I never actually played far enough into the game at this point to get this far, because I kind of want to wait for all the updates before I get into it. This is a level with an interesting platforming gimmick.
Yeah, well, one good thing about it is that all the updates are pretty separate, so you can play Spectre Knight, and it doesn't really have
Yeah,
much
I know.
to do.
It's just when I'm in the mood to play it, I kind of want to marathon it all. That's how I roll. If I know there's a big DLC update coming for a game, I probably am gonna wait for that update before getting into the meat of it.
And that makes sense. But one thing I do like about the DLC updates is that especially in Spectre Knights mode, they elaborate on some of the platform ideas that aren't used as much in the main game. Like particularly when you're in Mole Knight stage in Spectre of Torment, they use the green globs a lot more in that version of the level than in this one. Plague of Shadows is a little bit less so with that because it is mostly just a remixed version of the main Shovel Knight campaign, but Spectre of Torment...
mostly because Plague Knight plays so differently.
Yeah, in Spectre of Torment, the stages, while there are some similarities at certain points, like the first stage is pretty similar, most of the levels have a lot more unique set pieces, to the point where it does feel like its own game rather than just a different playable character in the same
you know how
game.
we were talking about dragons having too much animation to them for 8-bit?
Oh, yeah.
That beetle's legs are so smooth.
Yeah.
Silky smooth. It's unnatural. Make it stop. No, I'm kidding.
The legs speed up when it falls into the hole. I never noticed that before. Oh my god, that's fantastic. Oh, this game's great. Okay, yeah, take that, random air. Yeah, I showed you.
This kind of just seems like whatever the name of that fist weapon from Ratchet and Clank was.
I love
just an alternate melee weapon.
I love Mole Knight's female design because she looks like an opera singer with the fire hair and the armor that looks like a dress. Like it's like Mole Knight's not really one of my favorite boss designs in this game. Like when you've got 8 bosses, eventually there's going to be a couple that you don't like as much. But the female design really endeared itself to me. And also the boss fight has gotten significantly easier once I learned to get behind her when she's throwing the brick blocks.
Yeah, and just spam the Chaos Orbs because they bounce around in a really short space.
The Chaos Orbs are pretty ridiculous.
If you can shoot them right, the Chaos Orb will move along inside of Mole Knight's hitbox as Mole Knight's going from side to side, so you get like 3 free hits on Mole Knight while they're going. But you have to aim it right, because if you're aiming it the wrong way, it'll only hit them like once. So
how often did you guys use the phase locket, like in your first run through?
In the first run through, a lot.
All the time. It was only later. Once you get better at the game, you don't need to rely on it as much, which is, I think, good. Actually, have any of you guys tried the challenge mode stages for Shovel Knight?
What in the...
Oh, this is Reese.
Random boss.
Yeah, this was, I believe, one of the Kickstarter characters, where somebody was like, "Get your character in the game." And
yeah, they were like one of the highest tiers was design a boss for yourself.
And there are quite a few bonus bosses in Shovel Knight that you can. Most of them are optional, thankfully, but you can run into them on the map and you get gold or other things for beating them. So I'm showing them all off.
So is this like Proto Knight with boomerangs, or?
Sort of. It's a fun boss fight because they're all pretty good boss fights.
I think the only one who really comes back is the faux tough guy, but only because he was so funny.
Have you played Spectre of Torment yet? Because this character has actually a relatively large role in that as well.
Huh.
You must be a scientist. That means if I beat you, I'm a scientist.
Yeah, but I like these a little bit more than some other the way some other Kickstarters handle like have your character be in the game sort of kind of things, because these Shovel Knight has a very eclectic kind of art style, if you haven't noticed. So random people showing up and challenging you to a fight doesn't feel as out of place as it could be in some other games. I mean, maybe the Battletoads is a little bit much, but we'll get to that eventually.